Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and this is the MLBeers podcast with your hosts, Andrew Sherman and Philip Colin. And before I ask how your day has been or weekend has been, Phil, this is a special one. We've hit a small milestone in the podcast world. We've reached episode number 10, so I'm excited.
Oh, yeah. Got past the first 9. We're not batting 1,000, but we're there.
I don't think we can ever bat 1,000 because of all the crazy antics we talk about on the show.
Especially that last episode. That last episode was something else.
Like I said, I've really liked that episode, and I think we're gonna, do that more often instead of making it all baseball centric. We need to, step back, relax, hit those half innings right, hit those breaks perfectly. So anyway, 10th episode. And we're doing nothing for the fans besides give you more baseball information throughout the week. And, of course, drinking some, special beers, I guess you could say. But we can leave that for later. So, Phil, how's your weekend/day been?
It's been good, man. Not a whole lot went on. I worked all weekend. Didn't do a whole lot. Drank too much tequila on Cinco de Mayo because I still think I'm 21 years old.
I guess I've heard some people say that before, but I mean, it's always a new experience when you hear somebody else saying it.
Oh yeah, we weren't planning on going out, and what made it worse too is the bar we went to, they were doing karaoke on Cinco de Mayo, so it was white people's heaven.
Ugh.
It was a way to drink tequila and then sing karaoke. And I can tell you, I fell victim. I sang some karaoke. Luckily, there's no video documentation, so it doesn't live on.
That is a win-win right there. No video documentation. Thank God you're not running for office because they'll use that against you somehow.
Yeah, when I'm singing Panic at the Disco, I write sins and not tragedies in a bar full of people. That goes over really well.
Nice. So for me...
For some reason...
Well, yeah, go ahead.
For some reason, that and Regulate are my two go-to songs in karaoke.
I will have to remember that. I might have I might do that for episode 11, not 10, but maybe start out with some regulators. I mean, we are regulating the baseball world and beer.
I can do it. I can rap it. For no reason either. For no reason. I don't know why I can. I just can.
It just happens. It's Nate Dogg and Warren G, So,
besides that, how was your weekend though, man?
Surviving. I guess that's kind of both of us for a way, because for you it's drinking, for me it's focusing to a computer for X amount of time and writing only a paragraph. So of course I'm talking about last week of school for me. The paper, the presentation that I had this past week went well. The paper I just did was about plea bargaining through the media and ethics, which was...
something really nobody cares about?
Yeah, and it was really difficult because, of course, the media hardly talks about plea bargaining and how the system works and all that stuff, because the media... the media talks about it, but it's nothing like a trial. Because once a plea bargaining is done, you have certainty, and that's it. When it comes to a trial, you have uncertainty. So you can always speculate through that. But once a plea bargain is done, they hardly ever talk about it. I mean, do you remember Jared Fogle getting a plea bargain for his case?
No.
See, there you go. And that's another thing, too. People forget that certain stars, certain people get plea bargains and they don't remember it. So it was very hard for me to find a case for the media side in a way, and it was kind of harder for me to find ethics wise that made sense to what I was talking about. But
So could you say Jaron Fogel's plea bargain was about a foot long?
I mean, maybe if he's getting 5 years, I think it was 4 years, but not
Was
not
it?
your not your 5 year foot long, just a 4 year. But also, he's probably at some like really nice institution. They won't
Oh
let.
yeah, and typically guys like that, most celebrities and stuff, they I would assume they get a little bit not special treatment, but they're definitely a little bit more secured.
Exactly,
As
exactly.
yeah,
And so, I mean, that was my weekend, and so, I mean, it kind of gives us a segue. I mean, surviving and trying to get through the weekend. Our first article, of course, has to be about Mr. Matt Harvey and his fun times during this past week, not showing up to a Saturday game, a no call, no show, I believe, from what some of the articles that I've read about it.
and then I've read some articles where there was a text message exchange. Some are claiming Matt Harvey texts the coach.
Mhm.
Some are saying the coach texts Matt Harvey.
Mhm.
Nothing is really clear right now.
And we should also add that he's currently finishing up a 3-game suspension with fine.
Yep.
So, I mean, the whole story is pretty crazy. And, of course, if you've been paying attention to baseball, there's another Mets-type situation, too, where I guess there was a photo of, I guess, player of the game photo in the Mets locker room, and the locker adjacent to police checks, if I'm saying his last name correctly, had a had a dildo in there, and I'm just like, what is this? Of course, reading
That
all
has
the
to be.
articles, it was just
It's
for fun.
It's just a really great prank, though. It's the fact
Exactly.
that the guy that took the picture, the reporters around, decided not to either pay attention to the just dildo or just really didn't see it, and it was a perfectly placed prank.
It was. It was. Because it's just like the guy's standing there being kind of, statuesque, stoic, taking the picture, and then boom, you just look to your right and it's just right there. And I don't know how
Penis.
nobody misses that at all. And especially, which another thing is, which is especially weird, is that there's kind of a rules that the media has for doing interviews, taking photos, taking videos and stuff. And the one thing is the guy that took the photo was doing it right, because you can't do kind of a landscape photo throughout the locker room. It has to be at the locker, and he did it. He was supposed to he did the right thing, but it was, I guess, the wrong thing, because he has a hilarious prank in the photo.
Right? It'd be just terrible. But besides that, with the Matt Harvey and the Met situation, what else is going on?
Besides that, a couple injuries have been happening. Just looking at Bleacher Report real quick, Orioles' Zach Britton could be out for 2 months. Giants closer Mark Melanson out for a couple months. So it looks like finally, some arms are getting tired early, and I think that's going to be kind of a difference maker, especially for the two clubs that were named, because the Giants are, I believe, second to worst in baseball, and then you have the Orioles just right behind the Yankees, needing that extra oomph to get over Aaron Judge and Gary Sanchez and of the Yankees, and just it's going out. So, I mean,
Yeah, the Giants are coming in at 11-22, and I think that they're worse, and then the Royals are right above them.
mhm.
the Atlanta Braves are technically better.
Hey, I mean, it could be the Braves' year. And also two things before we actually get into our stuff. Pittsburgh Pirates pitcher James Towson, I believe that's how you say it, or Tielson. I think it's Towson, or Tailson. Had to go into surgery for possibly cancerous, possibly something cancerous. He had to have
Testicular cancer.
Testicular cancer, yeah, which really, really sucks. And I believe in one part of an article by MLB.com, he said it was probably the worst thing ever, losing my manhood. And I was like, 0 to 100 real quick.
Yeah, yeah, it's always a scary situation for any male, female, you know, finding out. Well, one, cancer is just scary as shit, anyways. But when it hits a real personal area, it just it hits home a little bit more.
Exactly. And the last thing I will say, today would have been Tony Gwynn's 57th birthday today, Mr. Padre, which is really, really sad and interesting at the same time. Could have had that beer.
Oh yeah,
could have had that beer.
Yeah, I watched his I watched a couple of his highlights today. I watched his last hit when he took it out to left field, got a double, and then immediately left second base to get pinch ran for. He didn't even hang out there. He just got out there, called time, went back to the dugout.
He knew what was going on.
Yeah.
I think the one highlight that I did see today was on Instagram, and I believe it was from the MLB. He hit a 2-run home run in the '98 World Series, hitting the second deck at Yankee Stadium, old Yankee Stadium. So that was pretty cool because when you look at Tony Gwynn, you think of contact, probably one of the most purest contact hitters of all time.
And think that 5.5 hole.
Yeah, exactly. Ugh. Trying to get through today, trying to relax. But anyways, that is all that I've seen today, and this past week with all the exciting news besides injuries. So anyway, to segue into the show, Phil, we're going to talk about the East divisions today, and we kind of brought up a couple teams like the Baltimore Orioles, the New York Yankees, the New York Mets. So let's take a look at the standings for the American League East. And of course, we have the Yankees on top, 21-9, with a 0.5 games ahead of the Baltimore Orioles, which are 21-10. The Boston Red Sox are 17-14. Tampa Bay is 16-18, and the Toronto Blue Jays are 12-20. So,
yeah, and that's where I'm gonna start on work my way from the bottom to the top.
Okay.
Because let's leave the best for last, right?
Exactly.
So one we hit first is just using Baseball Reference, just looking at some of their injury updates. As of yesterday, May 8th, John Donaldson and Troy Tulowitzki were both put on the 10-day DL. Tulo with a right hamstring strain, and it's saying he's expected to be out of action until middle of May. And Donaldson was again placed on the disabled list for that same right calf strain and remains without a definite timetable.
Ooh.
And then Russell Martin was also put on the 10-day DL with nerve inflammation in his left shoulder, and there's no timetable for his recovery either. And then Aaron Sanchez was on May 5th, 10-day split fingernail.
Interesting.
Huh. Yeah.
I mean, but then again, that's pitchers, so it's expected to have something like that.
Exactly. And, if we look at their last 7 games, though, they're 4-3 of their last 7 games. And it looks like their offense is coming back to life a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
They're starting with May 1st, they went 7-1, 5 lost, 5-11, 6-8, 8-4, 1-6, 2-1 and 4-2. So in those last two games, winning by 2 and 1 run, it looks like their bullpen is starting to hold up a little bit better.
Mhm.
They're starting, players are starting to actually hit better. And just looking at their team batting right now, and I'll bring up guys like Tulo and Josh Donaldson, but just remember, they're on the DL right now.
Mhm.
Their best guy that's not on the DL right now is Kevin Pillar, coming in with a 305 batting average.
Mhm.
He has 40 hits, 10 doubles, 4 stolen bases, 9 walks, and only 21 strikeouts.
That is pretty good. That is pretty good. Especially
Yep.
for a guy that, is pretty much hidden in a way with the big names like Batista, Donaldson, and Tulowitzki.
Yeah. You're not expecting a guy. You want to expect a guy like Pillar to hit 305 with those guys too,
Mm-hmm.
but the fact that he's doing it without him is even better.
Exactly.
And then, the guy they went out and got in the offseason, Morales, is struggling a little bit for him.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, he leads the team in home runs with 6 and leads the team in RBIs, but he's only hitting 248 with a 299 on base, striking out 28 times.
Yeah,
But
not good. Not good.
it gets even worse from there with Jose Batista, though. Jose Batista has 43 strikeouts, a 169 average, 2 home runs, and 9 RBIs.
Yeah, that 169 average, that's kind of a little bit scary for Batista. And I was looking at their last 7 days with this team, and Batista is actually, if my computer wants to work with me, Batista is actually hitting an 0.83 with 27 plate appearances and 2 hits.
Yeah, he's started all 32 games this season so far. But they really don't. Just looking at Baseball Reference, looking at who they have on their bench right now, you got Steve Pearce, who's had 22 games, but he only has a 200 average. And you really don't have anyone else that could play the outfield unless you want to stick Kendrys Morales in right field.
Which, that's probably not a good
You don't.
idea.
I've seen that experiment. You don't want to do that. I've seen it. I've watched it live. It's not
not
the
pretty.
absolute most terrible thing you will see, but it's also not the best.
Understandable.
But they're getting production from guys like Ezekiel Carrera.
Mm-hmm.
Playing in left field. He's had 27 games so far. He's coming in at 297, 316, 419, 735 OPS, and a 101 OPS plus.
Mm-hmm.
And then, with Josh Donaldson out, Darwin Barney is stepping up. 26 games, 64 plate appearances, 295 average.
Mm-hmm. And has actually, if I'm looking at it correctly, he's only 2 behind Batista with hits, and Batista is having a 169. But then again, there's a difference between 26,
64 plate appearances and 142.
Yeah, exactly, and 32 games and 26 games.
Exactly.
So,
and with Tulo out, you got Ryan Goins in there.
Mm-hmm.
He's only hitting 200. Devin Travis isn't hitting well either. He has a 157. Justin Smoke is doing Justin Smoke things. 262 average, 5 home runs, 17 RBIs. So if he can maintain that and maybe bolster his home run numbers, that could help the team. But with guys like Donaldson and Tulo out and Batista not producing at all, it's just going to be even harder on him.
Exactly. And my question when looking at these, looking at all of this, you have Chris Coughlin, former Cub, if I'm correct, and also he was with another team before he went to the Blue Jays. He's another guy that, you expect him to, get some playing time because of really bad performance from Batista. But, I mean,
the
Batista is there.
They're just not going away from. they're giving him every opportunity to lose his spot, and they're just not pulling him.
Hmm.
Like, even, give him a week off, see
Hmm.
what happens.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the
What's the worst can happen right now? You lose another 3 games.
I mean, yeah, I mean, right now it's almost trade time, trade talk time because of
Yeah,
how poorly they've been playing.
but you got to look at the roster though. Who can they trade? They've had too much. Donaldson has been too injury prone this year for
Hmm.
anybody to really take a risk on him. Like, maybe he can get something for him, but he's not going to get the type of prospects he would have gotten last year. Same
Hmm.
thing with Tulo. Same thing with Russell Martin.
Hmm.
If you want to, you could maybe get away with trading Kevin Pillar, but he's not going to pull in the same kind of guys. And looking at their starting pitching, J.A. Happ is hurt. Aaron Sanchez, one of the younger pitchers on the team, hurt.
Hmm.
Marcus Stroman, he's coming in with 3.38 ERA, 45 innings pitched, or 45 and a third inning pitched.
Hmm.
But he has 17 earned runs, a 121 ERA plus, a 364 FIP. He's letting up 9 hits per 9. He's only striking out 6 per 9, and his walks are down, but he's not giving. And then Marcos Estrada, same kind of situation, 3.14 ERA. They're they're good at the top of the lineup, top of the rotation type guys, but they're not going to bring anything in for you to really justify trading them.
Hmm.
And looking at their bullpen too, it's the same kind of situation. They're like, Robert Osuna was supposed to be their lockdown guy this year, and in 12 innings, he has a 3.75 ERA, 11 hits, 5 runs, 500 runs, 1 home run, 1 walk. He does have 15 strikeouts, so his strikeout per 9 is 11.3.
Hmm.
But he's been hurt too, so it just seems like the Blue Jays got off to an injury-plagued beginning of the season and just aren't able to recover from it.
And I guess that was going to be my next question is just are they even going to recover out of this? Because right now, looking at the standings, they're 5.5 games back from the Yankees, which, I mean, that's not a tall. I mean, not 5.5, 10 games back. I was
Yeah,
looking at the
they're 10.
wild
They're 10.
card
Yeah,
games back.
and that's not, you bring up the wild card situation. They're 5.5 games back. So if you look at it in a 20-game stretch, if they can somehow go 14-3, and some other teams go 10-10, 9-11, or something like that, yeah, they're right back in it. But just the way, without Tulo, without Donaldson, and then the way guys like Batista is hitting, Morales is hitting, you're not getting any production from your second base position at Ryan Gomes.
Hmm.
You're just not getting any you're not getting any production from guys that need to step up and fill in.
Exactly. And so is that everything about the Toronto Blue Jays?
Yes, sir.
Even though I kind of wish they
So
were doing a little bit better, but I mean, you got to
yeah,
have those down years.
yeah, they are. And what's not to say if Donaldson didn't hurt his calf,
Hmm.
where they would be right now?
Exactly.
Because we all know the type of hitter Donaldson has been in the last 3 years.
Hmm.
So, and if Tulo was able to stay healthy, but that's always been a problem with Tulo's health throughout his career, anyways. So it's really not anything to be not expected of, but
Hmm.
is what it is.
Exactly. So who's your next team? So we're going.
Uh,
You said you were going from the bottom up, correct?
yes. So next is a Tampa Bay Rays.
Hmm.
I keep wanting to call them the Devil Rays.
Yeah. I mean, it really doesn't matter now. I mean,
It
it
doesn't.
was a good moniker when they were winning, the Rays, but now it's just, eh.
Yeah. Just looking at some of the recent injuries. Steven Souza last night left exited last night's game. His injury has not been specified yet, and he did not start today.
Ooh, that is.
But besides
not
that,
good.
just looking over their injury list, Matt Duffy, he had surgery on his left heel while on the 10-day disabled list. He expects to be ready by the end of May. Yeah, that's really about it. There's really not a whole lot else going on with them injury wise. They're more or less pretty healthy, but coming in at the bottom, second to the bottom of the division at 16-18, that only puts them 7 back from the Yankees. And they're getting some pretty good production out of a lot of different players. You know, Logan Morrison, he's coming in at a 250 average, but he's hitting 7 home runs.
Yeah.
Then you got Tim Beckman, a shortstop, 27 years old, hitting 255, 6 home runs. Evan Longoria's average is down at 234, but he's hitting 4 home runs. And then you look at Corey Dickerson, 319, 6 home runs, 11 RBIs, and 9 walks, 27 strikeouts. But you look at one of their guys that was supposed to be their premier guy, Kevin Kiermaier, coming in at 206 and only 1 home run and 38 strikeouts, third most on the team. So, and then Brad Miller, they got Brad Miller coming in at second base, 193 average. They're just, you know, again, doing Tampa Bay Rays type things. They're not, everyone's not producing at a high level. They have a good player here or there, but no one's really doing too much for them. And then they lost last night, but they are up tonight 6-3 in the bottom of the 6th.
6-3 in the bottom of the 6th.
Yeah, they're playing the Royals.
Now it's 6-4. I just looked that up.
Okay, did it update?
Yeah, 5 minutes ago.
Oh, all right.
I get all the
Royals
updates. You know me.
Oh, Mike Moustakas grounded out. What a surprise.
It wouldn't be a bigger surprise if it was Hosmer.
Well, hey, Hosmer's doing something, but that's for next week's episode.
Exactly.
And looking at from May 1st until May 8th, they've won 4 out of 8 games, so they're coming in at 500. Just running down that list, it's 4-2, 3-1, 6-10, 5-1, 4-8, 6-1, 1-2, 3-7.
So they're trying to, from what it sounds like, with not having the numbers in front of me, it sounds like they're trying to lose or trying to win really close, which is, you know, under 3 runs.
Yeah, but when you are trying to win close, that means your starting pitching and your bullpen pitching has to be locked down. And just running down their bullpen pitching, they got Austin Pruitt coming in at a 7.52 ERA, Jumbo Diaz coming in at a 5.14 ERA, and then Danny Farquhar.
Yep. You have
coming in at 368. Then Alex Colmy coming in at 251. And Austin Pruitt, they've used him the most with 20 innings, and he's led up 35 hits and a 369 FIP and only 3 strikeouts, 8 strikeouts per 9. So it just seems like, you know, he's led up 21 runs, 17 of those earned, 2 home runs, 5 walks, and 1 intentional walk. It just seems like they're relying on a guy who's just not producing for them. And their starting pitching, honestly, is not bad at all. All of their guys have sub-4 ERAs. They just running down the list, starting with Chris Archer. He has 9.5 strikeouts per 9. Alex Cobb, 5.4. Blake Snell coming at 7.2. Matt Andriese coming in at 7.7. And Jake Odorizzi coming in at 7.2. And their ERAs, working again with Archer, 3.57, 3.56, 3.96, 3.09, and 2.88.
Exactly, just below 4. And that's, you know, that's any pitching rotation today with that is really should be, you know, really good. But this team, from what it sounds like, from what you're saying, what I've seen through replays and stuff, condensed games, they're just not getting the run support that they should need from these good pitching.
And, you know, one of the guys they, you know, made a point to go out and get this last offseason was Colby Rasmus. He's coming in with only 6 games played this year. And a 235 batting average.
Colby Rasmus. How I do not miss him with the Cardinals. And now,
But
from the last time I saw his picture, he looked like he should have been part of an Amish refuge. So
actually, I like to refer to him as the best Abe Lincoln impersonator.
interesting, interesting. Would never think of that. Would never think of that at all. But hey, I
Yeah,
mean, it could
but
be worse, right?
you could be at the theater.
Oh, 0 to 100 real quick. I definitely
But
need to invest in a
yeah,
soundboard.
but the Tampa Bay Rays, they're just like I said, their starting pitching is being excellent for them, but their overall lineup is just not producing. They only have one guy hitting over 300.
Mhm.
They have no guys in double-digit home runs. They're not scoring home runs. They're not stealing a lot of base. If you're not hitting a lot of home runs, you figure guys to be active on the base pass. As a team, it looks like they only have. Oh man, I just lost it. Stolen bases. 5, 7, 10, 11, 12. And then Malik Smith is on their bench too.
Mhm.
He is tied for second in stolen bases.
And what's an
Three.
interesting thing, real quick, is that he was supposed to be coming up through the system and really help these guys out, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, because he's coming in at 24 years old. He's the youngest guy on the bench and the lineup. So, it's understandable that he's not playing in a lot of games. In the games he's played, he's coming in at 8 games, 22 at-bats, 273 average, 3 stolen bases, 3 walks, 3 strikeouts.
Mm-hmm.
So for being an almost once-a-week player, he's doing what he's supposed to be doing.
Exactly. But could they see more opportunities with him?
Well, with Peter Borges keeps playing the way he's playing, 186 average, 255 on base, and a 279 slugging, and a 53 OPS plus. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I bet you can throw Malik Smith out in left field.
Of course. But also, I mean, you got to look at him too. I mean, yeah, he has those 25 games, but he's only had 47 plate appearances. But also another guy that I'm surprised that they even have is Ricky Weeks Jr. is out,
Yeah.
and
But he doesn't have any stolen bases though. He has 20 games, 49 at bats with a 163 average.
Mm-hmm.
When I think of Ricky Weeks, I think of a guy out there stealing bases. I don't think of a guy high average or anything like that.
Mm-hmm. Which is odd. I mean, but that's his old Brewers days. So.
Yeah, and see that's what I think of Ricky Weeks out at second base. That's what I think.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So anyway, my question to you about these Tampa Bay Rays is are we going to see them have a resurgence to make the playoffs, or are they going to be like Toronto and just, I guess, give up in a way?
It'd be interesting to see because they're not that far out of it.
Mm-hmm.
They're only 7 games back from the first place Yankees. So time will tell more with them. Let's get into beginning of June, second week of June to see where they're at.
Mm-hmm.
But if they're not, it'd be interesting to see what they do with Chris Archer because last year when they were out of it, there was a lot of hot talk about him being traded.
Mm-hmm.
And if he keeps pitching the way he is, he could get a lot of return for the Rays.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I was just thinking for a moment. Yeah, I was just thinking, what would Tampa Bay get out of that, and what would they go for if they needed to trade Chris Archer? So,
well, if you look at their glaring holes, if you trade a guy like Chris Archer, you're not wanting a prospect that's 4 to 5 years away.
Mm-hmm.
You're wanting a guy that's going to be ready for the 2018-2019 season.
Mm-hmm.
So you look at their glaring holes. Evan Longoria is aging. You want a guy that could play third base. Mm-hmm. You have Kevin Kiermaier, who's typically better than he is. So maybe you don't see the hole out in center field.
Mm-hmm.
And if Malik Smith could come up and produce and hit for a 280, 290 average, steal a lot of bases, he'll be fine out in left field. So you want to look at their catching, first, second, short,
Mm-hmm.
third base, and right field.
Yeah, that's spot on. That is spot on. Because I mean, there's really,
Because they got Corey Dickerson, and I guess technically he can play the outfield.
yeah,
So yeah, he's a right fielder, corner outfielder. I think. I don't think he plays center.
I believe he's a right fielder
So
as a second
yeah,
position.
yeah. So they have a guy like that who can hit for a high average, hit a lot of home runs, and Evan Longoria, like I said, is aging. You don't know how much you're going to get out of Logan Morrison at first base the way he's hitting.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to look at mainly catcher, second, short, third, and right field.
Exactly. And you just were bringing it up real quick. He's been playing left field this season, Corey Dickerson. So
Dickerson?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I knew he was a corner outfielder. I just didn't know.
Yeah, like
Didn't
I
know
said,
where
I thought
he
he was
was.
a righty. So
Yeah, that makes more sense that he's out and left then.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So you've already answered my question, and I'm guessing there's nothing more to say about these Tampa Bay Rays. So I'm guessing since you said we're bottom to the top, we're talking about the Boston Red Sox.
Yes, we are. So I'm gonna keep the same format. Just look at most recent injuries and just kind of go from there. So Stephen Wright, May 8th, 10-day DL. Had season-ending cartilage restoration surgery in his left knee. So sounds like he's done.
Yep.
Tyler Thornburg, shoulder, 60-day DL. Pablo Sandoval, 10-day DL, sprained right knee, May 1st. David Price, elbow, 10-day DL, soreness and inflammation.
Mm-hmm.
He's expected to be out of the game until the end of May.
Mm-hmm.
Brock Holt is on the disabled list due to vertigo.
Weird illness.
Weird baseball injuries. And then Marco Hernandez, 10-day DL, left shoulder subluxation. All right.
I don't. Yeah, I'm not a doctor, so I.
That sounds like a WWE move, like suplex.
Mm-hmm.
But what do I know?
I'm not a doctor. All right.
I can take a look though.
You play one on TV, right?
Yes. But just looking back from May 1st until now, they've won 4 out of their 7 games. They've gone 2-5, 5-2, 4-2, 3-8, 3-4, and then the last 2 games, May 6th and 7th against the Twins, they've just turned it the fuck up and went 11-1 and 17-6.
Ooh. Not a good day to be a Twins fan on that.
No, not at all. But just looking at their starting lineup,
mm-hmm.
A guy that I didn't expect to be hitting 280, Mitch Moreland,
mm-hmm.
coming in at 281. Pedroia's coming in at 272. Their best hitter on the team, Xander Bogaerts, which is not too surprising, is coming in at 340.
Mm-hmm.
Just lighting the world on fire. Andrew Benintendi is coming in at 325. And then Mookie Betts, Jackie Bradley Jr. is kind of doing his typical thing. He's struggling really hard, coming in at 175.
Mm-hmm.
But Mookie Betts, 279, and Hanley Ramirez coming in at 262. But one of the guys that is at least getting, he's played 22 games, 69 plate appearances, 69 at bats, Chris Young,
mm-hmm.
coming in at 275.
Which is very, very interesting because, like you said, Jackie Bradley Jr. is usually your, I'm guessing, center fielder, I believe. Yes. Mookie Betts is your right, and then Benintendi is your left. And seeing Chris Young doing so well kind of shifts gears in a way. If, about
Jackie Bradley
the
Jr.
3Bs.
Jackie Bradley Jr. has only had 57 at-bats this year.
Mm-hmm.
So he's only played half the games this season.
Mm-hmm.
So it'd be interesting to see if his trend continues, if they make a shift in center field and start using him off the bench and letting Chris Young have a go at it.
Mm-hmm.
But again, their strong starting pitching that they went out to go get is pretty much doing that, minus the fact that David Price is hurt and Stephen Wright is on the 10-day DL.
Mm-hmm.
But Chris Sale, 192 ERA, 73 strikeouts, a 143 FIP, a 794 WHIP, 12 strikeouts per 9, 51 innings pitched. He's only let up 11 runs all season. And then Eduardo, what?
I was just saying crazy. Sorry, I was yawning and I couldn't say anything.
Oh.
And then once I had the opportunity, you were starting to say something else. That's what happens when you're doing this, almost in the middle of the evening.
Yes. But, looking at Edward Rodriguez is doing a nice job of filling in for the absence of David Price.
Mm-hmm.
He only has, he's only started 2 games, 29 innings pitched, but he's coming in with a 3.07 ERA. Drew Pomeranz struggling a little bit, only 27 innings, and has let up 12 runs, all earned, with a 4 ERA.
Mm-hmm.
Stephen Wright, 24 innings. He's the guy that was mentioned on the 10-day DL. And I think he just said he's the one I mentioned that's going to be out for the season. So, But he struggled at the beginning of the season for him. 8.25 ERA, 40 hits, 24 runs, 22 earned. So it sounds like he was having problems from the get-go.
So who's going to be the guy to fill up that spot before Price comes back? And I have Fangraphs up, and it shows that Kyle Kendrick and Brian Johnson are the 2 guys, but I don't think it's you can't really say much. Johnson has thrown only 5 innings, even though he has a 10.8 K per 9. His ERA is a 7.20, but then again, you kind of feel good once you look at Kyle Kendrick's numbers. Through 4 innings, he's only thrown through 4 innings, a 2.25 K per 9, but his ERA is a 13.5. So it seems like Johnson would be the guy to, I guess, hold over the torch before Price comes back.
Well, do you think Joe Kelly can come back and start for him?
Let me take a gander, shall we? Because I was just looking at starters. Joe.
Because last year he came out of the bullpen, but he did start 6 games for him. Mm-hmm. And then in 2015 he started 25 games for him. Mm-hmm. Granted, his ERA was a 4.82. His left on base was a 69.3%. So I don't know if he, after last year, only starting 6 games and only pitched 40 innings, if he can be stretched out long enough to cover for David Price.
And there is a possibility for that. And right now, if you look at his current stuff at the moment, 16 innings, even though he has a 394 K per 9, a little higher walks per 9 with a 5.06, but his ERA is a 2.25. So.
Yeah, and his left on base is an 80%. So maybe if he's not necessarily stretched out, but he looks like a guy that can go, like if he can start the game and give you 3, maybe 4 innings, play kind of the bullpen game, have, tag team a start, which I would love to see start happening.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that's going to, almost become a new trend in a way because, you look at
how cool would
Andrew
it be
Miller
to have
and all that stuff.
Craig Kimbrell? How cool would it be to have Craig Kimbrell come out there first inning, give you 2 solid innings, and then turn the ball over to Chris Sale for the rest of the game?
It wouldn't be a bad idea, and I don't know why they haven't done it, but
because if Kimbrell can give you 1 time through the lineup, if he can give you 3 innings, that leaves the next 6 for Chris Sale, who would only at that point maybe see the lineup through twice. And starting pitching, that's when they start to struggle after that second time through the lineup.
Because it's because they haven't seen him yet. They've seen him already.
Yep.
So.
Yep. exactly. So, it'd be interesting to see, but, possibility Joe Kelly to see where they want to go with it, or like the guys you brought up, Kyle Chendrick or Brian Johnson,
Mm.
just because each of them have a game started already.
Mm-hmm.
But see, both of them only pitched 4 innings and 5 innings.
Mm-hmm.
So if you got a better pitcher in Joe Kelly who could give you 4 to 5, then turn it over to one of your other better bullpen guys, seems like a better option.
Exactly. But also, you kind of have to remember they have to get through those, innings.
Yeah, no, you gotta add a little bit of mentality of it, that you're not just going out there for 1 inning anymore.
Mm-hmm. And also, and that's for the manager too. You got to kind of remember that they're not only out there for 1 inning. You got to let them be out there for 2 to 3 innings, possibly 4 as the max.
Right.
So,
as a team, the Red Sox are coming in at a 274 average.
mm-hmm.
They got 28 home runs, 14 stolen bases. They're not walking a whole lot, 8.9%. They're only striking out 16% of the time, though. So they have a 309 batting average of balls in play. So they're
mm-hmm.
making contact with the ball. So it reasons to say, if David Price is able to come back healthy, this team will be competing with the Yankees at the top of the division.
Yeah, and I was about to say, my question is they're kind of faltery at the moment, but then there's injuries, so you can't really say much about it, though. Because, if you look at it, it's just that once injury, you don't know what's going to happen when people come back from injury, and I don't want to speculate too much.
But if they have a guy like David, if you're able to have that 1-2 punch of Chris Sale, David Price, it just leads you to believe that they're going to be able to be good.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So, not having the Red Sox being number 1, they're number 3, but before we get to number 1, which we keep on talking about the Yankees, number 2, the Baltimore Orioles.
Yeah, and you brought it up earlier. Zach Britton just went on the 10-day DL with left forearm strain. Wellington Cancio is on the 10-day DL with a shoulder injury. Wade Miley is with a wrist injury.
Mm-hmm.
Francisco Pena is out with a thumb injury, and Gabriel Yona is out with a hamstring injury.
Oh, good. Not really, but
right.
And it sounds like it's kind of a Boston and Baltimore kind of having the same problem, where all their good guys, that are supposed to be their starters, are really are out because of injury, and they're just. But the difference between these two guys is that Baltimore's 21-10, while Boston's 17-14. So.
And the Orioles are on a 5-game winning streak,
mm-hmm.
and since May 1st, they've only lost 2 games.
Wow.
So when you're when you're coming off a 5-game winning streak, you want to look at the things they're doing right.
Mm-hmm.
And usually if you're on a 5-game winning streak, it's because your starting pitching is doing exactly what it needs to be done.
Mm-hmm.
And before Zach Britton got injured, you got to look at what Dylan Bundy is being able to do for him. Coming at 24 years old, 5 wins, 1 loss, 2.17 ERA, 7 games started, 45 innings pitched, 28 strikeouts.
Mm-hmm.
And then Kevin Gausman,
mm-hmm.
struggling, 6.63 ERA. Wade Miley, before he got hurt, had a 2.27 ERA, 31 innings pitched, but with leading the rotation with 38 strikeouts. And then they're still relying on Baldo Jimenez.
Yeah.
He's doing his typical thing. 6.58 ERA, but he's not striking out as many guys. He only has 18 strikeouts. He has 19 earned runs.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, normal Jimenez things.
Yeah.
So, it'd be interesting to see who's going to take over for the injured Zach Britton, because you got Darren O'Day and Brad Batch.
Mm-hmm.
Darren O'Day, though, is struggling the most with a 5.02 ERA. and Brad Batch is coming up with a 2.41, and Michael Givens is coming in with a 2.30 ERA. And they've used Brad Batch the most with an 18.2, 18 and 2/3 innings pitched.
Mm-hmm.
So with the most recent injuries, we'll see if they're going to be able to maintain it. But again, they're getting hitting from Jonathan Scope, leading the team, second in the team in home runs, and he's hitting a 2.94 ERA. Goddamn, batting average.
Mm-hmm.
And then the guy they went out and got from the Padres, Seth Smith, is doing well for them. He has 66 plate appearances, 2.98 ERA. God, I keep saying that. 2.98 batting average.
I mean, we just talked about pitchers, and I believe you said Seth Smith was from the Drays. I believe he was with the Mariners. Yeah, he was with the Mariners.
With the Mariners? Oh, okay.
He was with the Padres. You are kind of right. He was with the Padres in 2014, but the past 2 seasons were with the Mariners.
But you look at a guy like Manny Machado, the guy that's supposed to be their superstar. Granted, he's leading the team in home runs and RBIs, but he's only hitting a 2.29, which is not typical for him at all.
Mm-hmm.
And then they got a guy on their bench right now, Trey Mancini. 21 games. He's listed as a utility player. 69 at bats, 313 batting average. So at what point do you let J.J. Hardy keep playing with a 196 batting average? And then Chris Davis, not even leading the team in home runs or RBIs. He has 4 home runs, 8 RBIs.
And a 238 batting average. Back to Machado real quick. What's really interesting is that, we've just brought up Chris Davis. He has a 238 batting average, but has a 356 BABIP, while Machado has his 229 average, but only a 221 BABIP. So it shows that, Chris Davis is actually putting the ball in play, while Machado is just seems to be, striking out more, I guess.
Yeah, he's striking out 19.1% of the time. Granted, Chris Davis is striking out 34.9% of the time, which is not too far off from his career median. But a guy like J.J. Hardy, how long do you let him keep playing? Because Machado can play shortstop. And if Trey Mancini, what position
through Fangraphs, I just looked it up. Through Fangraphs, he is DH in outfield. But you would have to put in Caleb Joseph, if I'm correct. No, Caleb Joseph is a catcher. Again, I think we just need lineups too when we talk about all this stuff and not guess.
Yeah, because I'm looking at him right now. Yeah, they get him. Reference has him listed as a DH, left fielder, and first baseman.
There you go.
So they really don't have any other option to at third base if you replace Hardy. So I guess that's where they're kind of stuck with it.
Yeah, and like everybody that I've looked at so far are not capable. I mean, they're capable of playing outfield, but they're not capable of playing the infield. I mean, the only people that I could see that could take over J.J. Hardy's spot is Jonathan Scope and Machado, but I mean, that's it.
Yeah, they got Ryan Flaherty on the bench, and he's a utility infielder, but he's only hitting 140 and 20 at-bats. So I just feel like if you got a guy on the bench like Mancini, granted it's 21 games, 67 at-bats, or even look at Hyun-Soo Kim coming in at 227. How long are they going to be at the top of the division and let guys like that in the lineup every day?
Yeah, and another weird thing too about that is like Hyun-Soo Kim is supposed to be this really power home run guy, and he's really been slacking in that department with only 1 home run, 3 RBI, 3 R's BI. That's a whole history teacher thing that I could talk about later, and only running in 5 times. So with the 10 hits.
And he has a 10 hits, 273 batting average of balls in play, a 676 WRC plus. It's just he's not producing like they thought he would. So how long do you let a guy like keep bringing him up, Mancini, sit on the bench and be an every other day player, and not give out to be every day,
and make him actually learn some of the skills with being an infielder too.
Yep.
So
yeah, because if he can play first and left, which is such a weird position lineup for him. When I think of left fielder, I don't think a guy that could go over to first base because those guys are typically right-handed.
Yeah.
So whatever, it's kind of weird. But at some point, do you get him to play second base so you can let Scope take over short and Machado stay at third, or something? Especially the way they're playing and where they're at in the division. And I know we're not 40 games in yet or anything like that, but if the trend continues of their winning, are they winning with the guy, with 3 or 4 guys, or could they be winning more if they took a guy out like or Kim and Hardy?
Never know, because we're not the GMs, we're not the managers of that. But I'm guessing that was going to be my question, is that we see them doing well right now. I had them as my second wild card spot.
Did I. No, I didn't. No, I didn't. I had them third in the division.
You had, I believe, the Toronto Blue Jays at second. But
which that is panning out to be really well right now.
Oh yeah, one of the fantastic picks so far.
So what I should start doing is just picking all the Royals division rivals to do well, and then they can just tank and the Royals do well.
Exactly. But I guess my question is, looking at all the stats, hearing everything that's going on. I mean, currently right now they're playing against Washington. They beat Washington the past 3 games, I believe. I believe this is game 4. It's just, do you see them slowing down? And do you see them slowing down, or do you see them surpassing the Yankees?
The only way I see them slowing down if they keep guys in the lineup like Kim and Hardy, and if Chris Davis can't start producing, and depending on where their bullpen and who they have fill in for the rotation with Wade Miley. The injury bug hit them. They got guys that aren't producing. So if history says anything for baseball, a team like that's not going to be able to keep producing. You just got to find an option. You want to be able to maintain and stay up. You want to keep pace. And if Kim and Hardy keep bringing the team down, and depending on where they're batting in the lineup, that could really affect their chances. And with the way the Red Sox are hitting and the rotation and bullpen that the Red Sox have, they can't do that. They need to be able to produce at a higher level.
And that makes sense. I mean, again, like we both had the Red Sox leading the division, winning the division, and you kind of have to see these teams go all out. And like you said, with the injury bug, that's going to really hinder them. And it will show how this team will work when there's injuries. So it's gonna be an interesting ride for the Baltimore Orioles for probably the next month or so until they get everybody back. So that leads to our last team, which is the New York Yankees, which, for me, a really, really surprising team out of the gate.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm pretty sure I had them third in my division, third or fourth. I didn't expect them to come out the way they have. In the last 8 games, they're 6-2. Just before, when they lost last night, they're on a 6-game winning streak, scoring a whole lot of runs. Starting at May 1st against the series against Toronto, it went 1-7, 11-5, 8-6, 3-2, 11-6, 5-4, 10-4, and last night's loss or I guess they lost tonight.
Yeah,
the game's already updated. They lost 3-5.
3-5.
So, just looking at that, they got guys that are hitting the cover off the ball. Surprisingly, not surprisingly, it's what you expected from Aaron Judge. You expect Aaron Judge to have 13 home runs. What you don't expect him to have is a 317 average. And then Jacoby Ellsbury is coming in at 290 average. Matt Holliday is having a nice resurgence out there, playing DH full time, coming in with a 287 and 6 home runs. Brett Gardner, 6 home runs, 260. Chase Headley, 270. Ronald Torres.
Yeah, Torres.
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 Yeah, Torres. The double E, the double R, and the IYE. EYE was throwing me off.
It happens.
But he's coming in at 316 average. Starlin Castro doing things
with a 350
coming in at
58 batting average at the moment.
358, and you don't. That's kind of, you don't expect that from. You don't expect that from a Starlin Castro. And then they got guys on their bench like Aaron Hicks, 24 games, 73 at bats, a 342 average with 6 home runs. And then you got Didi Gregorius. Yeah. Coming in at 273. You got Gary Sanchez. He only has 32 at bats, but he already has 1 home run, 5 RBIs, and 281 average.
But you also have to remember with Gary Sanchez, he was on the DL for quite some time.
Yes.
So
he was. So, he'll work his way back into the starting lineup. And, this what getting onto the disabled list, Greg Bird just got put on a 10-day DL back May 2nd. But in his 19 games, 60 at-bats, he has 1 home run, 22 strikeouts, and exactly 100 batting average.
Ugh. That's just nasty. And I was just to do a little quick erasure, out of everybody that has hit so far, and I really should take out pitchers real quick, but I believe that there's 3 guys that are hitting
without a home run.
It's not without a home run, or just really 4 guys that are hitting over 300.
Yeah,
which is really unheard of for any team in this day and age. I mean, and especially not just barely over 300. We have Torres going 316, Judge 317, Aaron Hicks 342, and Starlin Castro with that 358. And really unexpected with these guys too. You don't expect Aaron Hicks to do that. You weren't expecting Starlin Castro to do that, especially after his time with the Cubs. And I mean, Judge and Torres, they're guys coming up through their system. So of course it's their rookie season, and they're gonna, try to make that big splash.
And Aaron Judge, I talked about last episode. He, throughout his whole minor league career, his career high in home runs was 19. He's 7 away from that already. He never finished the season above 300 batting average. So something's clicking for him. And then, you go and look at their starting pitching. You got Tanaka coming in with a 436. Luis Servino coming in at 340. Michael Pineda, 312. CC Sabathia is struggling with them, coming in at 545. And Jordan Montgomery coming in at a 381.
Which I actually thought was Mike Montgomery the other day when I saw him pitch. But then I quickly realized from many co-workers that are fans of the Chicago area told me that it's another Montgomery.
Yep. And, they went out, they traded Chapman to the Cubs last year, went out and re-signed him again this year, coming in with 7 saves, 12 innings pitched, even 3 ERA. Tyler Clippard looks to be their setup man with 14 innings pitched, a 1.26 ERA. Jonathan Holder coming in with a 208 with 13 innings pitched. Brian Mitchell, 11 innings pitched, 635. And then Dylan Betances coming in with an 80.84 ERA and 10 innings pitched.
Not only that,
and he has his strikeout per 9 is 16.
That's what I was about to say. The ridiculous high strikeout rate.
Yeah. And so when you got guys across the board just producing for you, it only makes sense of why they're leading the division with 21-9.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's not a whole lot of negative to say about it. You know, I can nitpick,
And actually, that was my question. That's going to be my question is, with such a really, really great team going on, is there, something that we can, at least talk about that's really been bad for this team? But it's
first base,
very difficult.
First base. That's their, Greg Bird wasn't producing for him. He's hurt. They went out and signed Chris Carter, and Chris Carter's 20 games, 54 at-bats. He's doing Chris Carter things. He has 20 strikeouts. He only has 1 home run and a 204 average.
Chris Carter things. Going 1 home run in 61 plate appearances.
Yeah. So it's just, that's their only one glaring issue.
Mm-hmm.
And, theoretically, I wonder if they could shift, if they keep having problems there, if they could shift a Matt Holliday there to first base. I know he's a left fielder, but
I think there's a possibility because, him being with the Cardinals, me being a Cardinals fan, I've seen that happen a couple times where he has played first base. Not a whole lot because he was on the DL the last few years, but he's done
if he could make it, if he could make a shift to first base, maybe not even full time, but a little bit more than part time, and let Aaron Hicks bat more at DH because he doesn't have much of an option out in outfield with the way Gardner, Ellsbury, and Judge are playing.
Mm-hmm.
So if I have to nitpick, that's it.
It's just really it's just really difficult to really get on to these Yankees, even though I had them, I believe, 4th in the division.
I'm pretty sure I had them three or four, because you don't expect guys like Judge and Sanchez and Castro and Torres to just come out and play the way they are. You don't expect them to have 3 or 4 guys hitting well above 300.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So, is there anything else you want to add about the Yankees or the division as a whole, or whatever?
The division as a whole is really how I wanted to wrap it up. Is it's going to be interesting to see the top 3 teams. If the Orioles, like I brought up before, just a quick recap. If the Orioles can figure out their injury situation and get guys like Hardy and Kim to hit, it'll be a really interesting race between the Yankees, Red Sox, and Orioles.
Mm-hmm. I do agree.
The bottom two teams, I don't see them doing anything else than where they're at right now.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, but you kind of have to watch out for Tampa a little bit. Again, they're only 7 games back from the Yankees, but I don't think you have to really look at that. You have to look at they're only 3.5 games back from Boston, and I think that's really how they're going to try to fight for it. I guess trying to look good but still do bad. But then again, it's still
at the end of the season or so, if they're competing for that 3rd spot and the Red Sox are competing for or the Orioles are competing for that 2nd wild card spot, if they could play a spoiler, might do enough for their confidence for going into the 18th season.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So if that is everything you wanted to say about the AL East, I guess that will lead us to our break. So everybody stay right here for the MLBeers podcast as we will come back and talk about the National League East and a little bit of our beers that we're drinking tonight. Hello, everybody. We're back for the MLBeers podcast 10th episode, hitting that milestone. And I guess, really, I wasn't thinking about it earlier when I chose my beer, chose my beer for the night. But my beer for the night is Dogfish Head's 90-minute IPA, which is very, very delicious. Have you had it before, Phil? I'm pretty sure you have.
Yeah, I had the 90-minute when I was down in Texas in 2014. But Dogfish Head, now distributes out here in Missouri, and they're slowly getting into Columbia the past couple weeks. So I was able to pick up their 120-minute earlier this week, which I probably should have saved for the show, but I'm impatient as fuck when it comes to beer, so I just drank it the day I got it. So
it's all good. I try to look for the 120 this past week. No dice here in Springfield.
I paid, I think, $7.99 for a 12-ounce bottle.
Yeah, that's gonna happen for you folks that wants to drink the 120. It's a very hefty price, and I believe the 90-minute when I bought it was like $3. So
that's not a bad price point, though.
It isn't, but the 120 is, I guess, kind of the gold standard out of the minute series, I guess, or whatever you want to call it, because it is pretty much white and gold, and it costs, triple the amount that you'll get for a 90-minute or even a 60-minute IPA. So
exactly. And tonight I went with the Boulevard's American Kolsch Golden Ale, which is just a solid, easy drinker. It comes in a 12-ounce can, 4.6 ABV. Honestly, it's just a really solid, drinkable beer. It's something that you can buy a six-pack and drink a six-pack of it, and you're not going to feel bloated to the max.
Exactly. And, the Kolsch is, really reminds me of what a Budweiser should really taste. What the major beer companies' lagers should be. That's what it should be. But they aren't.
Yep.
You got to add that rice, right?
Water sells better than flavor.
And don't forget about rice too, because there is a little bit of rice in that for filtering, which
and
is,
and to be Brazil, owned by a Brazilian company. But go America.
You mean Belgian?
No, InBev doesn't. InBev be they have Brazilian.
No, it's for sure. It's Belgian. InBev.
Hold on. Google's going to tell me some answers.
InBev. Oh, that was. Oh, AB InBev. Oh, trying to.
Yeah. Because it's Anheuser-Busch. And yeah, the company was enlarged, and Sam Miller concluded that what was like.
Okay. So it's a mixture of both. So we are right. Because it's
okay. So I'm not wrong.
Yeah.
I'm not wrong.
Because it's and you shouldn't really trust Wikipedia, but it actually gives a nice account of it. It was a merger between Belgium-based company Interbrew and Brazilian brewer Ambev, which took in 2004, and then they bought Anheuser-Busch in 2008, which now is Anheuser-Busch InBev. Or AB InBev as abbreviated. But still, nah. I mean, nah. That's all I can say. I would rather drink Antarctica beers any day of the week that are from Brazil or whatever that the most famous Brazilian brew is down there.
I have no idea. I know there was a series with Dogfish Head's head brewer CEO. He did he does an ancient ale series.
I actually had one of those a couple weeks back.
Yeah, the Namaste, right? Was that the one?
Yes. And also the Minus Touch was another one too. if that is one of them. I believe you said ancient ales, so
Yes. All right. Well, we talked about our beers. We've had a couple, so we're gonna go into this NL East division.
we've had a couple, and yes, it is Antarctica that I'm thinking of. Antarctica Pilsen or Pilsner, depending on who.
Wait, Antarctica brews a beer?
No, it's a
Oh God.
it's a Brazilian beer, but it's
Oh, okay.
named Antarctica. Yeah, it is Brazilian. I knew it was a Latin American beer, but it's actually pretty good. So I wouldn't be talking about it if it was bad, you know. But then again, we talk about Budweiser. So anyway,
Far more than we should.
yeah, I'm still waiting, you know. Are you still trying to get those royalty checks from Logboat?
Fuck. At some point, I fucking should. I drink enough of them. I talk about them enough. I just check my Instagram feed. I'm pretty sure the majority of my photos are Logboat. But whatever. They don't want to hire me, fine. I'll still drink their beer.
Exactly. So, anyways, like you said, we're going to be talking about that.
We should just start that hashtag Logboat hire me.
Logboat hire me with your Twitter handle in it, right? Be easier. But anyway, like you said.
But if any of you listeners view my Twitter profile this week, just ignore the grotesque profile picture I have going on right now.
Yeah, it's a pretty questionable profile picture, but
I lost a bet to his Twitter handle's name @comedicbust. Really funny guy. Go check him out. But I lost a bet to him, and a bet's a bet. So we made the bet that whoever won would get to pick the loser's profile picture for the week, and that is what he chose for me. So until Thursday at 4:15 p.m., that is my profile picture.
What was the bet, first of all, if it's appropriate? But then again, we're very inappropriate on here, so just tell us about the bet if you want.
Yes, what it was is, let me pull it up. There's a Twitter contest going on with Obscure Gent. It's a online comic series. And what it is, it's like a NCAA bracket style. And so what they do is you ask to be a part of it. This is their last one they're doing. There's 128 Twitter accounts in it, and you can check out their website all about it. It's theobscuregentleman.com. And what we did is we bet on one of our friends, Ginger Hot Dish, to make it to round 4. She did not make it to round 4.
Okay.
And I took the over and bet that she would, and she did not. So, and that's all the bet was. It was a simple bet, nothing crazy, but I was also a part of that contest. I didn't make it out of round 1. So.
Oh, Phil.
It's a pretty cool contest, though, because what they do is you submit your tweet, and he has, I think, 9 judges who aren't on Twitter read the tweet and vote to see if they what they like the most. So it doesn't matter how many retweets, how many favorites, or how many followers you have, or anything like that. It's just the quality of the joke.
Yeah, it probably wouldn't make it out of the first round either, but
I can tell you, I'll read the tweet I submitted. I thought it was pretty funny. The girl I lost to, at Amy, let me pull up hers. At Amy Helena 1. I met her a couple years ago. Really nice girl. Really funny too. If you're on Twitter, I would go follow her. She's hilarious. But pretty cool. The contest they run, you get a bunch of cool prizes and stuff for it. And I think the farthest I've ever made it is I made it to round 3 once.
Round 3, fight.
No, the tweet I submitted was, if it's not one thing, it's another. I say as I try to remember my MySpace password.
Not bad, not bad. I had a little
Not
chuckle.
bad. It wasn't my best, but I thought it was funny. So it is what it is.
Oh, oh, MySpace. Oh, MySpace.
Yeah, I'm kind of glad that I can't log back into that because that'd be embarrassing as fuck.
Oh, trust me, it's I don't even remember my password for MySpace, but an embarrassing thing that happened last 2 weeks ago. I didn't get to talk about it on the last week's episode, but I guess my cousin found a really old mixtape that I made on my computer, and it was 12-year-old me like singing about stupid things about bacon and eggs.
Yes.
Yes. It was at first I was like,
Can,
"Oh my god, I am so embarrassed." But then I'm like, this is actually pretty fucking hilarious. So,
can can we get some live clips of that for next week's episode?
no, because he actually took the CD with him, and supposedly he was that week, which was funny, is that the Battlefront 2, Star Wars Battlefront 2 release trailer came out, and there was a song that well, quote unquote song, you could say, that was about Star Wars on it, because that was when the original Star Wars Battlefront came out, and I kind of did like a voiceover of like what was going on with the game that I was playing, and he's like, "I'm gonna take this audio and mix it with the video of the new Battlefront," and I was like, "Do it. See how many likes you get."
There you go.
And I told him I'd get 10% royalties.
Hey, you gotta manage your business. You gotta manage your image.
Exactly. From becoming a broadcaster to 12-year-old me horribly talking about Star Wars Battlefront. So, oh, and there was also some explosions, the whole mouth explosions.
Were you making your
Yes, my own sound effects. So it's even better.
Yes.
Mouth explosions. That should be a joke. Mouth explosions.
Well, hey, I don't want to know what you do in that back alley in your free time.
Mouth explosions. I don't even know where a back alley is around here.
I'm sure you could find one. It's a dark place in there.
It's which one, the mouth or the alley? Oh! Even though that's supposed to be towards me, I don't care. We're having fun, right?
Yes.
So anyway,
back to baseball.
Back to baseball. We're gonna be. I'll be talking about the National League East now, and going down the standings, we have the Washington Nationals at 21-11, the New York Mets at 16 even, then the Philadelphia Phillies at 13-17, the Miami Marlins at 13-19, and the Atlanta Braves at 11-18. Respectively, they're 5 games, 7 games, 8 games, and 8.5 games back from the Nationals. And right now, as I'm just looking at this real quick, today is the 9th, and the Mets beat the Giants 6-1, and the Miami Marlins just lost to the St. Louis Cardinals 5-6. So anyways, we're going to do it like how Phil did it. Go from the bottom to the top. And with the injuries of the Atlanta Braves, we have Micah Johnson out for 60-day DL, then Sean Rodriguez, 60-day DL on the position player side. Then on the pitching side, we have Jacob Lindgren, 60-day DL, Armando Rivero, 10-day, Chaz Rowe, 10-day, Dan Winkler, 60-day DL. Not really the guys that you would follow on this team if you really think about it. They're not, part of the starting, I don't want to say rotation, the starting lineup, and also the starting rotation. But anyways, with this team, the guy right now is Freddie Freeman. If you really look at it, he has 11 home runs. He's scored 26 times with 19 RBIs. He's stolen 4 bases. His average is a 349. 349. His on base is a 469, and his slugging is 755. And he's in his base on ball and strikeout rate are at 16.9. So besides that, besides looking at Freddie Freeman, who is the other guy that you look at? And Nick Markakis is probably a guy that you have to look at. He's, had 127 plate appearances. And, of course, my information is all on Fangraphs. He's had 32 hits. His batting average right now is a 286. Then you look at Matt Kemp in a way, even though he's played only 19 games. He's had 86 plate appearances with a 329 batting average. And you could also say the same thing with Tyler Flowers. He has more games with 23, 70 plate appearances, but he also has a 362. So what about these other guys? Ender Inciarte, a guy that should be solid, may be good. He has an average, I guess you could say, at a 262. Then you have Adonis Garcia, one of the guys coming up through the ranks, hitting at 241. Dansby Swanson, another guy that's, expect to do a lot. He's hitting a 151. Only 16 hits, two of them being home runs, and 7 RBIs.
With a guy like Swanson, that's what you're expecting from him for his first year or two, because they're not going to let him figure it out down in the minors.
Yeah,
it's he played his time in college. By this point, he's only 23 years old, so he's not a overly old prospect or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
But the Braves have a need at shortstop, and it's just throwing it into the fire and letting them figure it out.
Exactly. And I mean, you can't get something like you have with Aaron Judge, not because Dansby Swanson plays a different position, different build of a player, but you're not, Judge has had the opportunity to play all 3 years in the minors. Well, really, Dansby Swanson started out in Double-A probably for half a season. Then the next season he was traded and he was played in Double/Triple-A, and then the last few months he got to play in the majors, and now he's finally a starter. And like you said, they needed a shortstop, and that was the guy. After they gave up Andrelton Simmons for – who did they give up? I feel like it was a pitcher that they gave him up. But anyway, just that, you don't expect a lot from him. But then you have Brandon Phillips, and even though Brandon Phillips has a 319 average, which is really good, he's only played in 26 games, and oddly enough, he only has 98 plate appearances between. And why I say that's weird is because that's almost 20 less than Dansby Swanson, and he's played 2 more games. So I guess he's kind of the first guy getting cut out. But then you look at the other guys. Then you have Chase Darno. He's not doing so well, saying he's only had 10 plate appearances, 3 hits, even though he has a 375. Not really a guy to look at. I've already brought up Tyler Flowers a little bit. But also Jace Peterson, which he's played 26 games, 72 plate appearances. He's another guy that they get out early, and he's only hitting 231. Adonis Garcia, I've already said, is hitting a 241. Looking at the pitching side of it all, is it really, with this, is it really part of the pitching's fault that they're doing so poorly, or is it just the hitting's fault? Well, when you really take a look at it, it is the pitching. You have Julio Teheran, 7 games started, is a 4.69 ERA. Bartolo Colon having 6 starts, 6.27 ERA. R.A. Dickey with 6 starts, having a 4.29 ERA. Mike Fulzinowicz having 5 starts and a 4.55 ERA. And the only guy to get just barely under 4 is Jaime Garcia with 5 starts and a 3.99. But
this is what you were kind of expecting out of the Braves, though.
That is true, because
they're not doing anything that's not expected. Like, really, the only guy that you could say that's really producing above expectation would be Tyler Flowers and Freddie Freeman.
I will have to disagree with you on Freddie Freeman, because he's usually that. He's kind of the guy that usually does well, but he's under the radar because he's with, lack of a better word to say, a shitty team. Because bad isn't just good enough. So
looking at them as a whole, they're not producing well on any level.
Mm-hmm.
Do they trade a guy like Freeman?
Your question, do they trade a guy like Freeman? And that would have to be, they would have to be doing somewhere poor. And I think they would have to. If they don't do well, they would have to. But then again, if you look at Freeman real quick, if my internet would like to work, he's only 27 years old. He's about to hit 28 in the middle of the season. But I think they're going to keep him for the next maybe 2 years. Right now he's part of a 8-year, $135 million contract. So if they kind of had the opportunity, they probably would, to get starting pitching, to start something new with that, with the organization, because of course the Atlanta Braves have produced phenomenal pitching throughout the years. You have Maddox, Glavine, and Schmaltz, but you don't really see that. You don't have those star pitching names like you did with those guys and Kimbrel and other big names. But do I see them trading Freddie Freeman? I hate to say no, but you have to go with yes. Because
right, like, you don't want them, as a Braves fan, you don't want them trading the face of the franchise, which is essentially Freeman. But you can argue with what they have with Swanson, it would be an easy turnover to have a new face of the franchise with him.
And especially with Garcia too.
Yep.
Another guy that's
and Ender as well. Those 3 guys. And if you want to trade Freeman, you got to do it at the height where he's on fire. And if he keeps this 349 batting average, 11 home run pace, by July, he's going to be setting the world on fire, and he can go out there and get you prospects that are ready for that 2018 season.
Exactly. And I will say, because just real
you're
quick,
you're not going to rely on Dickey or Cologne.
Yeah, and I was just going to say that Adonis Garcia probably wouldn't be the face of the franchise. I just looked at his stuff on Fangraphs. Even though he barely is finally out of the system, he is 32 years old.
Yeah, but a guy like Swanson can be your guy.
Yeah, exactly.
And like I said again, Cologne's 44. R.A. Dickey's 42.
Oh man, I didn't know that. I knew Dickey was up there, but I didn't know he was 42. I know Jaime Garcia is 36, 30. I believe. 30?
No, he's 30.
30. Maybe because of the so many injuries, I think he's 36.
But with guys like Tehran and I can't say his name. But
Fulnidowicz?
Yeah. They go 26, 25, 30. And if you trade a guy like Freeman, you can go get a guy in his mid-20s, a high AAA prospect, and maybe a good hitting first baseman to kind of replace him. Or you can see what Chase Darno has at first base. Tyler Flowers could have at first base. Nick Marchese, someone like that, And, at the end of the day, you're saving money on his contract, so you can go out and sign a different free agent.
Exactly. And I'm trying to see if they do have somebody like that with the Atlanta Braves organization on lovely roster resource. And really, there's not a guy that would be their next first baseman. So, like you said, they would have to go out and maybe get some future starting pitching prospects, but kind of get that, I guess, I hate to say it, that Eric Hosmer type of guy where he gets you that nice 260, 280 and do nothing else.
Right. Exactly. So, and at the end of the day, you can save money on his contract. So
Exactly.
that was really my question for the Braves.
All right. Yeah, and I really don't have anything else to say because that's really how it is at the moment with them. So, anyway, the next team, the Miami Marlins, which, like I said, this afternoon, well, a couple minutes ago, they lost to the St. Louis Cardinals 6-5, and it was kind of a late inning comeback game for them. So anyways, with the Marlins, if I can get their stuff up real quick, with the Marlins, it just seems like they haven't done much with what they went for. Of course, they didn't go for spectacular pitching, but they went for something on the bench. They had all their guys come back, and thank the Lord none of them got injured. But then you have, Martin Prado on the 10-day DL at the moment. You have Miguel Rojas on the 60-day. Then you have Yi Chen on the 10-day DL. Then you have Jeff Locke on the 10-day DL. And then Edison Volquez on the 10-day DL. So it's like they didn't go for much, but now they're kind of hitting that mark where the guys aren't being healthy with the guys, some of the guys that were part of the AL East. So anyway, the guys, to really look at the moment for them, if I can get this all up, is
Marcell Ozuna.
Yeah, is that guy. I was just about to say that, and
I knew that's where you're going.
Good. I'm glad that you're reading me. Anyway, 325 average with a 383 on base percentage and a 642 slugging. His BABIP is a 359, and he only walks 9%, but it doesn't really help that his strikeout rate's at 24.1%. But you look at his production, 39 his hits OPS. with 11 home runs. And what about his OPS? I'm guessing it's over 1,000.
Oh yeah, it's 1,025.
There you go. And of course, the guy's leading the team with 163 weighted runs created plus. He has 29 RBIs, and he's scored 19 times. Another guy you have to look at in a way is, even though he's kind of having a down year at the moment, is Mr. Christian Yelich. 279 batting average, a 331 on base percentage, and the 393 slugging. He's only had 4 home runs, but he's had that 34 hits, 25. He's scored 25 times and has 18 RBI. But again, his strikeout rate is more than his walk rate, with a 16.2 strikeout rate and a 7.4 walk rate. Then another guy that's a little bit struggling, but is kind of keeping on pace in a way, is D. Gordon. Has a 262 average, but he's stolen 10 bases, which is a really good thing for him. And actually, if I'm correct, he is only 7 away from breaking last year's stolen base that he had for last year. And, of course, that's because he had that 80-day suspension. But 17 runs, 33 hits, 5 RBIs. Then, you get your guy Stanton, and really he's kind of, he gets that big contract and he gets injured, but now he kind of almost played a full season last year. But now he's not doing so hot. Right now he has a 258 batting average with a 333 on base percentage, a 575 slugging, and a 25.2 strikeout rate with 26 RBIs, which is a good thing. 31 31 hits and 11 home runs like Marcell Ozuna, but that average is going to kill him.
But his OPS is a 908 though.
Which is good. And his bat, and the almost kind of counter that is like his BABIP's is a 263. And
yep. And his OPS plus is a 139. So he's making contact with, he's leading the team in strikeouts with 34, which is kind of expected with him. But he's also leading the team in walks with 14.
Yep. And, another guy that, that really you have to look at out of all of this is Mr. TJ Realmuto with a 317 batting average. The guy, I actually, got to watch a little bit of the Cardinals-Marlins game before we got on, and he was doing well. He actually threw out a guy from home to second. Which was really interesting is that I did not know this, that he actually has the fastest release speed in all of baseball, which is under 2 seconds, like a 1.83.
Jesus. And
yeah, which I was really, really surprised about that. And he got Sierra out by 4. I can't even say 4 lengths. It was like strides, because it's like the throw, Hechavarria caught the ball, and he was literally like waiting for him to slide. That's how it was.
And, a little interesting thing about him, too. Surprisingly, he's tied for first with 2 triples on the team.
Really? Realmuto or Hechavarria?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Realmuto.
Interesting. Because, again, I've only have the dashboard basics for the fan graph, so I don't always get those nice extra tidbits. But anyway, so, again, you have to look at this team, and is it the batting that's doing really poorly, or is it the pitching? And like I said before, Chen is out, Volquez is out, and if I can actually talk today, I believe it was, if I can go back to it real quick. And
but yeah,
Jeff
just looking at their pitching, though, as a whole unit, their ERA is a 4.37.
Mm-hmm.
That includes bullpen and starting.
And, that's not even good. And, and you have to contribute that, of course, to the pitching. You have Dan Stranley going 4.65 ERA, Edison Volquez with a 4.71, Adam Conley with a 7.53, Tom Kohler with a 5.40, and Y.E. Chen with a 4.33. And having those with your team, it doesn't help.
No. And, all those guys have 25-plus innings pitched. And they don't really have a whole lot of options elsewhere either.
Yeah, and that was the other thing. That was like when I was talking about the first part. It's like they didn't put a whole lot of money on the starting pitching, but they, went after the relievers that could do well. And the relievers aren't doing that well either. And you have Brad Ziegler with a 4.73. You have Tanichi Tozawa with a 4.15. David Phelps with a 5.06. Dustin McGowan with a 4.86. Really, the only guy that's been doing well that has actually shown up is Kyle Bearclaw, with a 1.23 ERA. And what was another interesting thing is that Stranley and Volquez have really high K rates. K per nines with a 9.29 and 10.5 respectively, which almost equals to some of the rotation. Some of the relievers too. Barraclaw has a 9.82. AJ Ramos has a 11.45, and then David Phelps with a 9 even with their K per nines. But it just shows that right now they're not doing so hot, and you can even see with it more when you look at their fielding independent pitching that those numbers actually go higher which of course is worse. But then once you get to Adam Conley, that's a whole different story because he has a 5.09, but his average is a 7. I mean, his ERA. See, now I'm flipping it. You said ERAs to batters. Now I'm saying averages to pitchers. With the he had a ERA of a 7.53 and is fielding independent pitching with a 5.09. But what is something that I see that could be a bright spot with this team is still, I mean, it has to be with the hitters. And, you have Ozuna, Stanton, Yelich, Gordon, and Realmuto doing well. But if a couple other guys do well, maybe Miguel Rojas when he comes back from his injury, maybe Martin Prado when he comes back to his injury. But Derek Dietrich is a guy that, he's your average man. Your average man. But he's the guy that hits for average, and he just hasn't really done well. 230 batting average, a 292 BABIP, a 347 on base plus slugging. I mean, on base percentage is a 295 slugging. A guy that really doesn't hit for power, but he could be doing a lot better. So
going with the most recent news about the Marlins being sold to Jeb Bush and Derek Jeter.
Yes.
And the way their hitters are hitting, they got young guys like Ozuna, Yelich, Stanton, D. Gordon-ish, Realmuto.
Mm-hmm.
What direction do you see them going? Do you see them going out and trading one or two of those guys to get some starting pitching in? Or are they going to drop stacks in the offseason and bring in some starting pitching?
I think it's going to be the latter because I know they're not going to give up anybody.
No, why would you though? That's what I was hoping you would say that, because why would you give up guys like Ozuna, Yelich, and Stanton?
Because that is a deadly
outfield.
And also they still have, they're still team controlled. So there's just no way of doing that.
They're not on the hook. The only guy they're on the hook for large contracts is Stanton. And if the guy can hit 260 and above and get you 30 to 40 home runs a season,
mm-hmm.
you could live with that contract.
Yeah, exactly.
You can live with that contract all day.
Exactly. And looking at everything else, it's just like you look at Chin, you look at Stranley, you look at Volquez, guys that are past their primes when it comes to pitching, and it's easier to get rid of those guys because not only that they're not, I mean, they only have 1-year contracts, and you don't really have to worry about them for the next year. But if Bush and Jeter are really serious about it, you could probably get guys that are going to be in the free agency, this upcoming free agency, or even at the trade deadline if you give up maybe one guy. But I know that they won't give up Ozuna, Yelich, Stanton, and Gordon, those guys, or Realmuto, to be honest with you. But that's going to be difficult.
Between those 5 guys and Miguel Rojas, those 6 guys, if you have 6 of your 9 guys in your lineup hitting the way they are,
mm-hmm.
but you got your pitchers pitching the way they are, it's not going to work.
Exactly.
So, and like you said, Stanton and D. Gordon are the only guys they have big contracts with.
Mm-hmm.
The rest of the guys are still team controlled. And with new owners coming in, and if they want to make a splash in Florida and Miami, drop the money and get 1 or 2 starting pitching and see how good that team will be.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So, I mean, that's everything that I have to say about the Marlins. Because, I mean...
side note, Mike Moustakas hit a solo home run in the top of the 12th.
Nice.
And there's a runner on second with... Who's up to bat? Salvador Perez. Probably going to strike out on a slider down and away.
Or pop it up inside, like Bumgarner did in 14.
Yep.
But anyway, we're not here to talk about the Central or our favorite teams. We're talking about the NL East. And the next team that is up in the NL East is the Philadelphia Phillies, going 13-17. And they're only 7 games back from Washington. With this team, their injuries right now, Howie Kendrick, Clay Buchholz, Aaron Nola, and Jimar Gomez, if I said that correctly. And there's actually a guy on the restricted list, Elenry Garcia, but he's suspended, I'm guessing, for drug-related offenses. But anyway, when you look at this team, again, you weren't expecting much out of them. You're expecting,
But they kind of did this thing last year though too.
Yes, you kind of expect them to do bad, but they had a hot start with their new guys. Trying to get that air out of me. Michael Saunders, he did well for a while. Howie Kendrick did well for a while. Cesar Hernandez did well. Adrubal Herrera has been really has been the guy for them in a way, right behind Cesar Hernandez. Hernandez with a 333 average, 377 on-base percentage, and a 496 slugging. But he's hit 43. I think that's the highest that I've seen so far doing this, having 43 hits, 4 home runs, and 10 RBIs. He's run across the bag 26 times. But behind him, if you really look at him like that, there's no one else. Because even though he's doing so well, Adrubal Herrera, even though he has the 30 hits, 14 runs, scored 12 RBIs, or Freddie Galvis, 28 hits, 19 RBIs, you look at their average, and it's a 256 and a 257, respectively. Nothing really going on with that. Michael Saunders, another guy that came up through free agency this past winter, he was expected to do well, like a 270 hitter, nothing too splashy. He has 25 hits, he has 10 RBIs, only 2 home runs, but he has a 245 average. And really that's been kind of the stranglehold with these guys. I mean, Maikel Franco, another guy, hitting 217 with 130 plate appearances, only 25 hits. It's just not really working on the hitting side. But the pitching side, on the other hand, has done better. I'm not saying they're, really bringing out big splashes. Of course, Jeremy Hellickson leading the way with 7 starts with a 3.49 ERA. Jared Eckhoff with 6 starts, having a nice solid 4 ERA. Then you have Vince Velasquez, which he really did well early in the season. I remember he having a sub-3 ERA, but now with his 6 starts, he has a 5.94 ERA. And my man that I thought that was going to do well this year, Aaron Nola, he's only had 3 starts, 16 innings. He's hasn't done well. He has a 4.50 ERA. He can strike out a lot. Looks like he is second in the starters with an 844 K per 9, but his walk rate doesn't help either with 3.88 walks per 9. So,
but can we talk about how he has 4 games started and no wins or losses?
That is true. Oh, are you talking about Zach Eflin?
Oh yeah,
we were talking about Aaron Nola.
Oh, I thought you were skipping him because he was on a 10-day DL.
No.
All right.
But he, even though he is on the 10-day DL, I just wanted to say my guy because
okay.
I think I had him.
Yeah, you had him pegged as one of your Cy Youngs or something like that, or rookie. I can't remember which one.
They're all confusing. When you don't have all the material right in front of you, you kind of forget what goes on. So, anyway, Zach Eflin. Eflin. Zach Eflin. I hope he gets that nickname moniker. Let's go Effin. So anyway, like you said, he's had 4 starts, no decisions. All 4 were no decisions. And what's an interesting thing, he has a 2.42 ERA. This
and
guy,
and he's only striking out 4 2/3 every 9 innings.
which is really really interesting, and his walk per nine is really really good with a 1.04.
Is one, and
One.
he only has 3 walks, 12 strikeouts. I It looks like the dude's just pitching the contact and just letting the defense have his way with it.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Because if you look at his fielding independent pitching, it's a 427. So he's a really big contact ground ball. Well, what it seems like ground ball type of. Well, actually, no, he would be more of a fly ball hitter. As I forgot that they do give you the ground ball percentage with a 48.2. So he is more of a contact fly ball hitter. But I mean, if he's got low ERA, so he's looking good. But does that mean that the Phillies are going to do better than what's going on right now? And that's a hell no. I mean, there's no way that anything like that could happen with this team. So, I mean, I don't know what else to say. So, yeah, go ahead though. Ask your question.
My question to you: what do you see the Phillies doing? Play, gypsy crystal ball for me. What do you see them doing in the next coming years?
First of all, just relying on. They're not going to do anything in the infield. The position players. They're relying on those guys. The only guys that I could see that I have right up here that are going to be doing something for that team is J.P. Crawford, shortstop, which he actually was up there for a while, and he did really well. Then you have Mickey Moniak, which he's an A-ball right now. Expect him to be up soon. Jorge Alfaro, expect him to be up soon. He's the catcher, and right now the catcher for them, if I can remember correctly, is Cameron Rupp. So, but they're not going to do anything with the position players. Maybe expect them to do something for their pitching. I mean, right now they don't have any pitching for the 18-19 seasons, that are coming up through the system that are really good. Sixto Sanchez, and yes, Sixto Sanchez is his name. He's an A-ball. Franklin Kilomi, he's an A-ball. Adonis Medina, he's an A-ball. And the closest guy to really, be a part of that, would have to be probably Mark Apple. And he's only 25 years old. I think he's had a couple of...
was he that pitcher from a couple years ago that was drafted by the Astros?
Mm-hmm.
And then took forever to sign, didn't sign, then took the year off, and then re-entered the draft and was drafted by the Phillies?
No. You're kind of right. You're kind of wrong in a way, because Apple was traded from the Astros to...
Okay.
But you kind of had it right. You probably do have that right. I've never really heard of that, but then again, I didn't pay much attention to the Astros, back then like I do now. But anyway, so I think what they will have to do for starting pitching is just to go out for it. Maybe they would have to again, if you look at the guys that they have, they try to give up Hellickson last year. Jared Eichhoff might be a guy that they'll keep. I know they'll keep Aaron Nola. And of course they would probably keep Vince Velasquez. And maybe if he's doing well, they might trade him off. But they might have to go after some pitching, because these guys, besides Hellickson, and let me get these ages up. See, this is another thing that I kind of hate. It doesn't show their ages. Hellickson, he's 30. He would be a prime target for trading. Vince Velasquez would not be actually, he would be kind of a
because that's
prime.
one of the guys I got from the Astros as well for Ken Giles. So.
Yeah. And then Zach Eflin. So really, if you want straight turnaround, then of course, sign some starting pitching. But overall, they have to keep their guys that they have. They have to go through the hell before they, if you want to get to heaven, you got to raise a little hell in a way. So this would be the time where they have to raise a little hell and just go through the dumps before they can start getting back to their 08, 09 ways.
All right. Yeah, no, that's kind of what I'm expecting. They don't want to give away too much, but they want to give away just enough to be able to compete from 18 and on.
Exactly. And like I said, those guys are young, so they're going to do a lot, and they'll probably give up Hellickson if they really need to. So anyway, the next team on the list is the 16-16 New York Mets, and they're only 5 games behind the Washington Senators. And another thing about these Mets, besides the ridiculous amount of unnecessary drama with Matt Harvey being a drunkard and wanting to have fun on Cinco de Mayo, and then Noah Syndergaard being another guy that's out. Not really, he's of course not being the guy that's making the headlines, but it's about that he's injured and he's going to be gone for at least 60-plus days, I believe. Yeah, they have him on the 60-day DL. Also, they have Steven Matz on the 10-day, Seth Lugo on the 10-day. And, some other players, Giannis Cespedes, 10-day, Brandon Nimmo, 10-day, David Wright on the 60, even though really he should just retire. 10-day DL for Lucas Duda and Travis d'Arnaud on the 10-day DL. So, looking at this team, and, Jay Bruce, he's producing, Michael Conforto's producing, but that's
and
it.
That's it.
That's it. Because and when I mean producing and saying their name, I can't be a guy that goes, oh yeah, this guy's producing, he's hitting 300, but has only been at bat like 3 times. Jay Bruce has been at bat, plate appearances of 143, and he's hitting a 277 with 33 hits. That's it. Everybody else, Michael Conforto, he's hitting a 325 with only 101 plate appearances with 27 hits. But that's it, because everybody else has been injured. Like I said, Giannis Cespedes, he's injured, but he has a 270. He's only had 75 plate appearances. He's only played 18 games. And it's just...
Lucas Duda, 10-day. He has 13 games. Travis d'Arnaud, 22 games.
Yeah, it's all these guys that, that are injured are kind of the guys that really help the ship in a way. I'm not saying fully, but help the ship in the way. And now with them being out, they're kind of turning into shit. And, really Cespedes has been the guy. He got that nice cushy 4-year deal that's over $100 million, if I'm correct, or $80 million. But anyway, the other guys aren't producing. But also you have to look at the guys that you have. Neil Walker is a guy that's probably over 30.
31.
31. There you go. Then you have Asdrubal Cabrera, which he's 31. Then you have Curtis Granderson, which he's 36. The guys, and Jose Reyes, if you want to really talk about him, even though he's doing abysmal, he's doing
30.
Abysmal,
but they're giving him a chance with 31 games and 112 112 at bats.
True, you are right. They're giving him a chance, but then the other guys that we brought up that were injured, Brandon Nimmo is an outfielder. David Wright is your third baseman, but he's out. And Reyes would be your guy playing at third. Then you have Cabrera, which he's now finally getting – he was injured a little bit, and he is injured – should be injured now. I think I did see something before we came on. to see that he had some injury problems. But anyway, it is not, with these injuries, is not helping with the Mets hitting-wise or the pitching-wise, because you have Noah Syndergaard. Just really, that was just a blow for them. Then you have, if I can actually think, Matt Harvey having his little tidbit going on, Steven Matz having his injury woes. But really the guy that you have to look at in this, kind of bright, this bleak moment is really Jacob deGrom. He has a 3.80 ERA. He strikes out 12 per 9. He walks only 4 per 9. And he's really the only guy that has done well that, that you could say, all right, you haven't, been really injured a lot and you're doing well for this team, because then you have Zach Wheeler, which he's at a 4.78 ERA, and he's had 5 starts. Then you have Robert Gelsman, which he's at a 6.54. He's had 6 starts, and it's just not working for these guys. And and also you could probably say something about their relievers too. The
only one doing well is Hansel Robles.
Mm-hmm. With a 1.56 ERA. You also have Jerry Blevins too, having an 0.79 ERA, but he's only pitched 11 1/3 inning, which sometimes I forget to say that from time to time. But you are right. Nobody else is doing that, and you really can't count Blevins a lot either, because he's only had 11, while you compare the top 4 guys over 15 innings.
Yep. And it's just, with the injury bug, it looks like they got hit with the stick every branch on the way down.
Exactly.
Everyone that needed to not get injured for the Mets is now injured or suspended.
Yeah, you either get hurt or hurt somebody in a way, I guess. That's the Mets way, right?
Right. So there's really not a whole lot else to really say about them. It's just they're not going to be able to maintain that second spot in the division.
Mm-hmm.
And if they do, it's going to be a miracle.
Mm-hmm.
And you can look to see what they have down in AAA, but at this point you would assume that they would start calling those guys up by this point.
You would assume Ahmed Rosario, which he was up for I think a week or two, and he did well. He would be a shortstop. Then you have Dominic Smith, which he's in AAA, and he's a first baseman. But really, I mean, these are coming from the top 100 prospects. Those would be pretty much your guys after that, because the other 2 prospects, even though they're pitching, they're A ball and rookie ball. But
yeah, they don't have any options.
They don't. And I mean, really, the guy that you could look at if you want would be Alfredo Boscan, which he's a righty. He's 27 years old. The power ranking on him is 77, and I mean, that's it. But there's nothing else that you can do with this team, and I really don't know how well they're going to do now with having, they're only 5.5 games back, 5 games back, but that's going to be a difference maker sooner or later.
At best, Syndergaard is going to be able to come back mid-August.
Mm-hmm.
At best. And that's not to say if they don't shut him, just go ahead at that point and shut him down for the year.
Mm-hmm.
Because why risk it?
Yeah, and I mean, depending what else goes on too, if they really, really need him or not, shut him down. That'd probably be the best thing for them.
Yeah, that was my question for you, because I'm not going to ask you if they're going to trade anybody, because the Mets aren't going to do it. They don't really have the people to trade anybody.
They don't have anybody to trade. I mean,
besides DeGrom. If you look at their roster, but they're not going to give a guy like up that, because they're trying to build a power pitching rotation.
Well, hell, they're, after this incident, you bring up they're not going to trade anybody after this Harvey incident. they've been saying that the Mets are looking for, people to trade with. But then again, that's all speculation and probably just to fill the Tuesday papers for them.
Yeah. So my question was to you. I kind of answered it too. Do you think they just go ahead and shut down Syndergaard for the year?
Depending what's going on, and of course that's always going to be what I'm going to say as my first words. Depending what's going on, they will do something about it. So let's just say they're 500 club right now, and they're 1.5 games back from the wild card. Do they set him out? No, because they want to get into that World Series, get that extra money, get that nice prestige and all that stuff. But if you look at 500 now and then they just slump into the numbers like Philadelphia, even though they have 13-7, their winning percentage numbers, that's what I should say, in the 400, under 450 or under 400, then they have to sit them out. There's no way that they should risk it at all.
There's no reason to.
Yeah. And
that's what it boils down to. It's just, why not give the guy a full year rehab? I know it's just I know they're just saying it's a torn lat muscle. But he was already skeptical going into the MRI to begin with.
Yeah, exactly. And
so, what's not to say there's something else more going on there?
Exactly. And also, you kind of think about it too, and it's like you're kind of happy that he went onto the DL, because it's like he's kind of arrogant with injuries. Because he
doesn't want to be injured, and he doesn't think he can be injured. So it's the fact that he is on the DL, so it kind of saves him from himself.
Exactly. And another thing too, I did read that he did not want to take the first MRI. He was like, no, I'm not going to do an MRI for it. And that to me is just really weird, because it's like, all right, you're going to be arrogant enough to lose money over something dumb, or you're going to, or you're going to keep yourself healthy for the next year by playing it smart. So, I mean, that's it with the Mets. It's all about it. They're just doing Met things. Like you said, they're doing Yankee things. They're doing this player things. They're doing Rays things. They're doing Met things. This is how always the Mets have been with certain things. If I can talk, is just now they gotta really put a foot in his ass and tell him, hey, you need to calm down here. We want you on our team for many years to come. Be smart and stop being arrogant. And that's what it's going to happen. And that's what they got to do. And if maybe that's another thing. Maybe that's another option. If he's still arrogant, he will still they might sit him down and be like, this is what happens when you are being arrogant enough that you lose your spot. But then again, I digress.
Exactly. So that leaves us just one more team.
One more team, and that is
the team we both expected to be in the lead for the NL East.
Exactly, and that is the Washington Nationals with a 21-11 record. Of course, they lead their division, and I think they just might have lost to the Baltimore Orioles. Let me refresh the refresh the standings real quick, because it likes to give me some updates. And they did. They lost 4-5 to the Baltimore Orioles.
That's not bad. That's not a bad loss, though.
It's not a bad loss. They're 5-5 the last 10. They're on a 3-game losing streak. But if you really think about it, they're facing a really good team. These were coin toss games, if you really think about it, against the Baltimore Orioles. Really, really good team. So anyway, any guys that are injured for the Washington Nationals, we have Stephen Drew, Adam Eaton, Sean Kelly, and Sammy Solis. You could say Coda Glover if you want. All those guys at the moment are on the 10-day, which everybody's loving. But then again, if you look at Adam Eaton, he's probably done for the season. He torn his ACL. Sean Kelly has a strained lower back. Sammy Solis has an elbow inflammation. And Steven Drew has a strained hamstring. So, interesting.
And looking at the Nationals just starting 9, they remind me a lot of the Yankees. There's not a whole lot to nitpick of their starting position players.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And, of course, your first guy that you're going to think of is Mr. Ryan Zimmerman. I believe he was the NL Player of the Month. Right now he's hitting a 4.20. I wanted to say ERA. I'm turning into you now, Phil. A 4.20 batting average, a 4.59 on base percentage, and an 8.75 slugging percentage. So of course that's going to be 1.3 something on base plus slugging. His weighted runs created plus is a 241, which is really, really ridiculous. Then you just look, and then you expect something with him having, of course, the high strikeout rate of 20.5 and a low walk rate of 6.6. His isolated power, 455. His on base, not on base, batting average when ball's in play is a 453. That's always the hardest one to talk about. But anyways, 47 hits, 13 home runs, and 34 RBIs. And this team is not going, I mean, I don't see them slowing down one bit with the hitters. Then keeping on going, you have Daniel Murphy hitting a 333 with 28 RBIs, 43 hits, 5 home runs. Mr. Bryce Harper with 40 hits, 10 home runs, 29 RBI, and 385 batting average. Then you have Jason Worth, which really you don't expect much from him these days anymore. Hitting 300, solid 300, and 30 hits, 10 RBI, 5 home runs. Then I'm just going to say this real quick. Before Adam Eaton really got injured, and the same thing, I know Trey Turner was injured for a little bit. Adam Eaton was hitting a 297 batting average with a 393 on base percentage and a 462 slugging with 13 RBIs and 2 home runs. So, and like you said, they remind you of the Yankees because there's multiple guys that are hitting over 300 that, would qualify. If you, talk about minimum plate appearances and put them in the qualified spot, those guys would be qualified, no doubters, of getting that nice batting average. And I have to say, what's really interesting about this is, Bryce Harper had a really bad season last year, and now he's coming off of that looking really well and doing what he's supposed to do, hit the dang ball, and he's doing it.
Yeah, he's coming off, he was denying injury all of last year.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously something was wrong.
Yeah.
So, and it's just obvious the way he's coming back with his 385?
385 batting average with an on-base percentage.
385 batting average, 10 home runs, 29 RBIs, 511 on base, 740 slugging, and a 1261 OPS, and then a 228 OPS plus.
Mm-hmm.
He hasn't stolen any bases, but he has caught stealing twice.
Mm-hmm.
He already has 27 walks with 23 strikeouts.
Exactly. And real quick, when I was, looking at all the numbers, all the stats, looking at the weighted runs created plus, like I said, Ryan Zimmerman with a 241. You have Bryce Harper having a 219. Then you have Daniel Murphy, 139. Jason Worth, 131. Adam Eaton, 127. Adam Lind, even though he doesn't have really the plate appearances, has a 127. Then you have Anthony Rendon with a 121. And you kind of, I guess, have to talk about that game where they were facing the Phillies, if I'm correct. Were they just completely...
where they busted off like 23 runs?
Yeah. No, that was the Mets. That's what it was.
Okay.
Yes, that was the Mets where they brought in their catcher as a pitcher. So, I mean, fun times being a Mets fan, And, I mean, you could say that they might be weighted that because of that. But then you have Matt Wieters with a 117. I think the one thing that I am kind of
and the Matt Wieters signing too, that was really late in the offseason.
Really late, because they were really trusting on Derek Norris, if you remember, and then they were like, nah, you're not doing so well. We'll just sign Wieters and let you go. Then,
yeah.
Fun times. Fun times.
But what I think differentiates them from the Yankees is their pitching's a lot. Their starting rotation is pretty much as good, but their bullpen is what's killing them right now.
Exactly. And, going through it real quick with the starting pitching, none of them are over 4 except for Joe Ross, which that's kind of sad because I kind of want to see him do well. But I think A.J. Cole is becoming their new guy, I believe, or Jacob Turner. I am not sure of that. Of course, I don't pay much attention to the I guess 5 starter for them. But anyways, actually, which is interesting because the 5th starter is Max Scherzer. So anyway, if you look at it, Tanner Roark has a 3.46 ERA. Gio Gonzalez with a 2.64 ERA. Steven Strasburg 2.66. Matt Scherzer 2.66. And like I said, Joe Ross having a 7.47, getting that Boeing in there. But anyway, you brought up how their relievers aren't doing well, and you look at their numbers, and these numbers should be, lower tiered starting pitching. Matt Albers is only the guy with probably the lowest with a .77 ERA. But then you look at Coda Glover, the guy that was on the DL, have a 4.15. Then you have Blake Trean with a 8.59. Matt Grace with a 6 even. Indy Romero, 4.40. Oliver Perez, 4.50. Sammy Solis, a guy that just recently got onto the DL with an 8.31. Joe Blatton, a guy that used to do so well last year for the Los Angeles Dodgers, has a 9.75. And Sean Kelly, another guy that just got onto the DL, is hitting has a 4.50 ERA. So, yeah, you are right. The relievers are not doing so hot, but it's the pitching that does so well, and that's why they get into those games. They're confident with their pitching that the batters can kind of, let loose a bit because they're not worried about the starters giving up, 10, 15 runs unless you're Jeremy Guthrie. No offense, but it's just, just
is what it is though. Guthrie had his one start with 2/3 of an inning pitched, and he let up 10 runs, all earned, 4 walks, no strikeouts, let up 6 hits, ended the year with 135 ERA.
Yeah, and see, that's another thing. I can't really hate the guy for it because that just happens. But that's the batter's mentality. If the batters know that they got a pitcher every night that can, give them that nice 7 that probably only gives up less than 3 hits, then they're gonna do well, and they're gonna be free swinging. And of course, you can always look at their strikeout rates with Ryan Zimmerman being a 20.5, Bryce Harper with a 17.6, Daniel Murphy really the only guy that's hitting at the 10 mark with 10% K rate, Jason Worth with a 27.2, and Adam Eaton with a 16.8. And that's where, the Washington Nationals do so well is because, like I said, they got the starting pitching that will give them, solid 7 with maybe 3 or less runs. They can go into the bullpen. They start free swinging. Then you have those games where they're already, leading besides, these Oriole games, because those two teams are really good. But you get those games that they're going to be up probably 4-1, 3-2, but they already had the lead, and some of those hits were, some of the opposing runs are home runs or whatever. But they're just showing that they got the power to really do some damage, and that's where it comes in.
And so, my question to you regarding the Nationals. So Adam Eaton's out for the year.
Okay, yes.
Do they go out, and this is going back to my Royals, do they go out and get a guy like Kane?
Let's take a gander, shall we? And we're not going to look at Kane. We're going to look at the guy that took over Eaton's spot, Mr. Michael Taylor. And right now,
Michael Taylor, he's coming in with a 228 batting average, 4 walks, 24 strikeouts,
13 hits, 4 RBIs. Typical coming in, because right now, if you look at it, he's only 26, and he was drafted 6th in the 6th round in the 2009 draft. So he's probably finally happy that he's out of the dang system. But is it a guy that you try to stay with? And,
especially with the way Zimmerman's playing, the face of their franchise since 2005.
Mm-hmm.
Bryce Harper is a free agent after 18.
Mm-hmm.
So do you go out and get a guy like Kane, who is hitting well, takes a lot of walks, plays superb center field defense? Do you go out and shore up that spot, or do you focus on the bullpen?
If I was the Washington Nationals, I would worry about the bullpen more than one person, because you're expecting Lorenzo Cain to get not necessarily buku bucks, but you're expecting him to get maybe a 2-year, $20 million deal, something like that, or maybe something higher, 3-year, $30 million or whatever, But you already have a guy, with, not saying that he's really, really good, but Michael Taylor is a guy that really is sufficient at the moment to do well. And then you have a guy like Victor Robles. He's going to be the future of the outfield for them. If they keep Bryce Harper in this situation, I know Jason Worth's going to be gone, but there's also another guy in the ranks ready to come up behind him. Then you have Michael Taylor there, or Robles in the way. You really have to focus on what you have to deal with in the reliever spot. Because if you look at the relievers real quick, Albers, 34. Andy Romero is 26, which is really surprising. Joe Blatton, 36. Blake Trean, only 28. Oliver Perez, 35. I'm not expecting, you could do something like what the Marlins did and bring in those guys for bringing a lot of good relievers, but is it worth it for a couple years when you can probably develop something good? Yeah, because they need that for the relieving. But do they go after a guy for Kane for relief? For
half a season rental?
Half a season rental when I know they're not going to, buy his contract? No, but then you have to think of, if they do a trade, who are they willing to give up for the half season rental? And I just don't think they're going to do that.
All right.
And that's just me saying it. So anyway, if that is everything, we went over it, everybody. We went over the NL East and the AL East. So that's really going to do it for this podcast. I really like this podcast, and I'm excited that we've hit our 10th episode. Would you say?
Yeah, no, that's super exciting. Just from where we started out to where we're at now. I know it's only 10 episodes, but once a week for the past
10 weeks.
Oh, yeah, 2 weeks, going on 3 months. It's a good deal.
Exactly. And, of course we're going to do more, but, I mean, it's always going to there's going to be times where it's going to be difficult to do one. I mean, we're always, here doing them, late night, doing late nighters while we have jobs. I'm going through school and all that stuff. But it's always been fun to, get together and talk baseball. And of course, me doing the historical showdowns, which I haven't done in the past 2 weeks. And again, if you heard me talk about it in the first part of the episode, I've been stressing about school, so there's just no time for that. But
once all that's done, though, we'll be bringing that series back, though.
Oh, of course. And and I'm not gonna say another series with it, but of course we might talk about our experiences with Out of the Park baseball. I know that after a couple weeks of messing with Out of the Park baseball on here, you finally got it, Phil, and you've been showing me some really interesting things with the Royals.
Yes, I did. And, maybe we could save that episode for the end of the month and just talk about what we do.
Exactly. So I think that's going to do it here for us for the MLBeers podcast. Of course, if you want to contact us, we have a Twitter at MLBeers podcast, and we have an email at majorleaguebeers@gmail.com. I have a Twitter at RealAWS13. And Phil, what is your Twitter?
At Philco816.
And of course, don't be afraid of asking us questions on our Twitters about baseball, about beer, especially with the MLBeers podcast. We really enjoy the fan interaction, and I hope we get more in the future. We would like that, and we would like to, talk about what's been going on the past few weeks with you, the fans, and what's, how you've been feeling about your team. So there you go. Any closing remarks, Phil?
I would say so. I think we covered the East very well. And, next week we'll be looking forward to the Central, and we'll be going from there.
Exactly. Same here. So I will have to say it is time to close this up for the 10th episode, the milestone episode for the MLBeers podcast. As your hosts, Andrew Sherman and Philip Corwin say, win or lose, there is always booze.